two processes for estimating costs and establishing the budget baseline build on previous topics. These two processes are both within the plan process group. Estimate costs is the detailed work of creating many cost estimates for all the pieces of the project. Determine budget assembles all the pieces into an overall project cost performance target. Estimate costs is the detailed work of estimating every cost, whether materials, labor, equipment, or outside services. It includes familiar estimating techniques such as analogous, parametric, bottom-up, and three-point. Review the Estimate Activity Duration lesson if you need to refresh yourself on these topics. Do you remember the basis of estimate concept? We saw this in the Estimate Resource lesson. The basis of estimate describes the underlying facts and assumptions that were used to create each estimate. Gather up all of the cost estimates, add in management reserve, which we discussed in the risk lessons, and you will determine the budget. Project funding requirements describe how much money is needed and when. For example, if you purchase a car, you don't need to pay cash for the full purchase price. The funding requirements would describe how much you will need upfront and then monthly to make payments and cover other expenses. The cost baseline is our target and is used during control costs so we can see whether we are spending money as we had expected. Now, let's take a deeper dive on some new concepts. An important estimating principle is that the earlier you estimate, the less accurate you will be. Why? Because the earliest estimates are based on the least amount of facts. Before a business case can be constructed, estimates are made. When we discuss progressive elaboration, we recognize that our understanding of project scope would evolve. Estimates in the project charter are more accurate than in the business case, and the cost baseline is even more accurate. This progression of accuracy is often portrayed in a funnel shape. The funnel shows that the estimate range is widest at the top or earlier in the life of the project and narrows as the project goes on. The earliest estimates are often analogous estimates called rough order of magnitude. Rather than provide a single estimate, we provide a range such as between 15 and 35,000. A definitive estimate has a much tighter range because it is based on a more developed understanding of scope. The term aggregate means to bring together. It is an appropriate term for determining the project budget because cost estimates have come from multiple sources. Working from the bottom up, we estimated costs at the activity and work package levels. In some cases, we rolled up these low-level estimates into control accounts. These all roll up to create a project cost estimate. From our risk management planning, we have a contingency budget for known risks. That's added to create the cost baseline. This is the target that project manager and team will be driving toward. It is a true baseline. Any change to the cost baseline must be approved through the change control process. Risk management planning also generated an amount for management reserve. This is added to the cost baseline to create the total cost budget. The project must assign funds for this entire budget. The project schedule can show when costs will be incurred, creating a cumulative cost curve that is often referred to as an S-curve because of the shape. Early in the project, there is less activity, so spending happens at a slower rate. When the project reaches a point where many things are happening at once, costs are incurred at a more rapid rate. Then they drop down to a slower rate as the project nears completion. The time-phased cost baseline shows us the cash flow and funding requirements for the project. Notice that the funding can be released incrementally. The funding plan answers several key questions. How much will we need? When will we need funds? Where will they come from? Notice that the project funding requirements do include management reserve. We saw in this lesson that we estimate costs, then aggregate them to determine the budget. We saw how the concept of progressive elaboration of scope also affects the progression of accuracy of estimates. Estimating ranges are wider when we first estimate and become much tighter as we iterate through the planning process. The time-phased cost baseline introduced the term S-curve, showing the cumulative cost of the project over time. That helps us understand our funding requirements and create a funding plan.